America's workforce. Its strength is our nation's success. Join Ronnie Spellman on I Build America podcast as we explore innovative solutions and inspiring stories from leaders and workers shaping America. Discover actionable insights to build a motivated workforce.
Welcome to the I Build America podcast, where we discuss issues and solutions and successes in workforce development. We have a very, very special guest, Kurtis Taylor, with the Bob Barker Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Now, you drove all the way up to Virginia to be a part of the Workforce Development Initiative and conversation and to join us on this podcast. I appreciate you driving up from North Carolina.
I appreciate this opportunity. Absolutely.
Now, tell us about your organization.
So I am currently serving as the executive director of the Bob Barker Foundation. And let it be known, this has absolutely nothing to do with Bob Barker from TV. No, he was a wonderful man. And he had his own cause, if you remember, have your pet spayed or neutered, is what he used to say.
Absolutely.
And I literally still get calls to this day from people hoping that we'll help them with their animals and with their pets.
Interesting.
Very. However, this is not that Bob Barker, nor does it have anything to do with The Price is Right.
Okay.
The Bob Barker Company is a family-owned company out of Fuquay, North Carolina. And they're one of the world's largest suppliers to prisons and detention centers.
Oh, interesting.
For everything that a person needs while in that incarcerated setting.
Okay.
So mattresses, deodorant, toothpaste, shower shoes, everything that you can imagine that a person needs to function and be comfortable while in that environment. And so the company...
And it's still family-owned today?
Oh, absolutely.
That's incredible.
Absolutely. Very much so. The founder, Bob, just recently turned 90 years old, and his beautiful wife, Pat, is not far behind him. And his son, Robert Barker, is currently the company's CEO, and the daughter, Nancy, is the company's COO.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the whole family is Christian-hearted, and the Lord put a burden on their heart and asked them, say, well, what are you guys doing to get back to this situation? What are you doing to help people stay out of prison? And that's how the Bob Barker Foundation was created.
That's amazing.
In 2009, they established a foundation for the sole purpose to facilitate the giving of money and other resources to nonprofit organizations all over America that are doing the work of reentry and recidivism reduction.
They're supporting through the foundation the work all over the country.
All over the United States.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Now, so is the for-profit business, do they operate across the country as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's one of the unique things about this foundation is that, so the Bob Barker Company, the way they phrase it is that they tithe. Okay. They tithe a portion of their yearly revenue, and those are the funds that support the foundation and allow me to do the work that I do day in and day out.
So tell me more. So this is interesting, and I didn't expect to go in this direction, but a little more about the for-profit business.
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been in business? Whatever you can share. I know it's a private company, whatever you can share, number of employees, the scope of what they do. And then I think that's important to take and then transition to that foundation side, because the idea that someone is tithing, as you described, and trying to make the community a better place and giving people workforce-related opportunities is a big deal. But yeah, tell me about the business, just to give some context behind what happened and why they felt like they could. I met a guy, he built a business, and he said, if I ever sell this business, I'm giving all the money away to nonprofit to help the community. But he felt so blessed and fortunate about what he had achieved that he thought, this is my responsibility to help other people achieve the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
So I have to literally calm myself down
right
when I get a chance to talk about this company. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the company's been around for roughly 50 years.
Oh,
maybe 51, 50. I know at least 50 years, right? And the company's vision is to transform criminal justice while honoring God in all that we do.
Nice.
This is written in the walls. This is a part of our mission. This is a part of the culture at Bob Barker Company. And I don't have the words to convey what the experience is like working for this group of people.
Wow.
From leadership down, everything in between. Everybody is wholeheartedly bought in to the mission and the vision of this company.
And that's good to hear. I've spent most of my career in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love hearing is you take a company that has a good culture, they have good values, and they practice it. So many times we go to the website, we hear about a company's values, and we see their statements and their strategy statements and their goals, and we believe in our employees and we believe in communities. And then you get inside the company and you don't see it.
Right.
Right. But it's good to see that they not only state it, they have it on the walls, and then they're living it. And then on top of both of that, in their for-profit business, not only are they living it, they've decided to create a nonprofit to live it even more.
That's right.
So I appreciate you sharing the for-profit side. Now tell us about the foundation piece. And so you've been around since 2009-ish?
Yeah, since 2009, the Bob Barker Foundation has granted well over $10 million plus to nonprofit organizations all over the United States.
Wow.
We've impacted well over 6 million some odd lives of returning citizens and those impacted by the criminal justice system.
Yes.
And we are committed. That's one of the reasons why I'm at this conference. This conference is the National Association of Workforce Development.
Right.
And I'm here because we have committed ourselves to second chance hiring, or maybe it's better said, new chance hiring. And the belief that, number one, incarcerated individuals have value in the eyes of God. And number two, that we cannot afford to continue to throw away and just leave in the garbage this entire segment of our society.
Right.
The truth is, like, over 80 million people in the United States of America have some type of criminal record.
Wow.
80 million. That's like 25% of the U.S. population. Are we really okay and just throwing away a whole quarter of our society?
80 million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know I'm not. You know, I myself, I'm formerly incarcerated, right? You know, I'm a person in long-term recovery. And for me, that means I have not used alcohol or any other substance since December 23rd, 2002.
Wow.
And when I take a look around at the blessings that flow through my life today and how good God has been to me, I can't help but think about, what if nobody was ever willing to give me another chance?
Right.
Where would my children be? Right. What would my life look like today if people just locked me up and threw away the key and said that I was nothing, it was never going to be nothing.
Right.
And so because I've been given another chance and other opportunities at life, you know, I'm committed. My life is dedicated at this point to making sure that the next man and the next woman get those same opportunities.
Well, I want to come back to some of that in just a moment. From a foundation standpoint, as you look across the country, how does your operation work? Who do you look for? What kinds of organizations are you searching for? I think that's so important. So you're at a conference with a lot of these nonprofits from all around the country. Who would fit your donation stack? Like, if they found you and they came to you, what does the profile look like for the organization that you're helping? And then from that, what does their client look like in the end, getting the support that they need? But what does that organization look like coming to you for support?
Yeah, it's a good question. So again, we support nonprofits all over America, right? So last year alone, we supported, I think it was like 90 different organizations. This year, we will review grant applications for 108 different organizations.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, the variety of interventions is just all over the place. There's everything from just strictly on the inside, right? And helping kind of facilitate and guide this transformational process, right, of an individual, to take them from, that negative self-talk and, and just build their self-efficacy to the point to where...
So some of the nonprofits, and not to interrupt you there, some of the nonprofits that are in the prison systems doing good work, whatever that good work is, you're talking about when you say in the system or they're in the prison system providing services.
Correct.
And then it sounds like you're helping those nonprofits that help people as they transition out of prison.
Post-release. Okay. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably even more what we get really excited about,
right.
Is the reentry side and that post-release. So interventions like, you just introduced me to a young lady that operates CDL training.
Right.
Higher education is probably the most effective intervention on the planet.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the recidivism rates are way under the floor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So talk to me more about that piece. I hadn't really heard anyone describe that. So you're saying if they get college education while in prison, then the likelihood of them returning to prison is less.
You said it for me.
Okay. Okay.
But less is an understatement.
Okay.
Yeah, I think associate's degree is maybe 3 or 4% recidivism rate. Bachelor's degree is 2 or less.
Okay.
And if someone gets their master's or PhD, it's 0.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And are you providing other career training support, organizations that are providing career training in prisons? You supporting those organizations so What does that look like? How do you even find the organizations, or they find you, and then how do you vet them to understand what they're doing and then track their outcomes?
Yeah. So our entire process is web-based.
Okay.
So our website is www.bobbarkerfoundation.org, right?
Okay.
And so people all over America, they come across that website. Everything that I'm relaying, all the information and more, is right there on the website for anybody to read and understand who qualifies and who does not.
Okay.
So the first step in that process is to establish a profile within the portal and create what's called an LOI, a letter of interest, right?
Yes.
Just a few short, sweet questions that will let us know immediately whether or not you even qualify, like meet the minimum requirements.
Gotcha.
If you do, then I would approve that LOI and send you on to the full application process.
What do some of the minimum qualifications look like? So if I'm an organization out in Utah and I came across your name and I see that you require this letter, what are some of the basics?
So you have to be either a 501c3 nonprofit or at least a tax-exempt entity. Okay. So sometimes government organizations, while not being a technical nonprofit, they are, of course, tax-exempt. And so they even qualify for us. Okay. You have to impact, at minimum, at least 100 program participants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, obviously, the more the merrier, right? Sure. We want to have a great impact in our society. And so the more people that you're able to facilitate your intervention with, the better. Okay. We always take a look at what exactly is your intervention. Right. So you have to be facilitating direct services to either returning citizens or just individuals that have been impacted by the justice system in general. Okay. Yeah.
Now, do they profile those people? Like, are they people? There's some requirements to serve less than 5 years, or less than 19, or just anyone within the prison system.
Everything.
And the severity of their issue doesn't matter per se. So it's not like you're just working with white collar criminals, right?
Well, my Lord and Savior, thankfully, he didn't only work with white collar criminals.
There you go.
Let me just say that. Yeah. Again, where would I be if I had to meet some particular criteria? Right. You know what I mean? Where would a lot of us be?
I mention that because it's like there's such a spectrum there, and you'll take anyone, right, that is willing to do the work to recover, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. And again, as for my role specifically, we're not providing direct services.
Right.
We're working with organizations that do. Mm-hmm. But yes, the variety of there's a complete plethora of interventions, and there's organizations that focus specifically on gang members.
Right.
There's organizations that focus specifically on people who have done 20 years or more.
Okay. See, and that's what I was getting to, just kind of understanding what that profile looks like. That is refreshing to hear that there's some support out there across the board.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Again, one of the founding principles in the culture at Bob Barker Company and the Bob Barker Foundation is that incarcerated individuals have value in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And we are all certainly redeemable. Right. I'm living proof of that.
So let's talk about that. You are now the executive director for the foundation, which in any other terms, you are the president and CEO of the operation, right? Just to kind of give people some context for what the role. That's a big role. That's a role of great responsibility, a role of great stature. But it didn't start that way. You weren't born the executive director, CEO of a foundation. You started a little differently than that. So tell me about that journey for you.
Yeah. So as a youth, I was labeled academically gifted in school.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds like a great thing. Sounds like a blessing, which it is. But for me, it was a curse. Okay. And I absolutely hated it. It made me different than everybody else. And I didn't fit in, right. With anyone at school in particular. And I just felt this inadequacy, right?
Oh, interesting.
In so many different settings. And I discovered alcohol. Alcohol was the first drug I was ever introduced to.
Right.
And alcohol allowed me to create an entirely different persona.
Wow.
Right.
How young when you discovered it?
12, 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're a young man.
Yeah. And alcohol allowed me to become, instead of being Kurtis Taylor, I became KT.
Okay.
Thank God, Ronnie, you never met KT. You don't want to meet him.
Okay.
he was something else.
It's funny. Ben Carson has a similar kind of journey. I don't know if you know the former surgeon. He talks about a similar.
Is that
so? Yeah, he does. So anyway, keep tell me about you.
And so from alcohol came marijuana, and then at roughly 15, 16 years of age, I discovered crack cocaine.
Oh,
yeah,
at 15.
At 15.
Oh, wow.
Hopelessly and helplessly addicted to these substances. I experienced years of homelessness. I experienced years of just in and out of the county jail more times than I care to count.
At 15, how is your family involved in that process for you? At 15, and 15 is young.
Disappointment, anger. Nobody could understand, right? Because there's no logic behind your actions and your behavior
for someone academically gifted.
Especially for anybody,
right?
Anybody, and so at a certain point, I mean that's how I wound up homeless. I was probably maybe 17 years old or so.
Wow.
The first time I found myself without anywhere to live, because the way out, the things I was doing, nobody was going to let me just stay under their roof, right? And yeah, it was rough. I'll say this: it was not a party. I wasn't using because it was so fun, right? It was literally the dictionary definition of addiction.
Right.
I was using because in my soul and in my spirit, that's what I had to do, right? And I did anything and everything you can think of to get my hands on what I had to get.
Wow.
So it did land me in county jail, and it landed me in a whole lot of like life-threatening type situations for many years. So I look back and I understand that God had his protective hand on me even throughout that process, right? And so I discovered like recovery, 12-step recovery. I discovered this wonderful organization of recovery homes called Oxford Houses.
Now, real quick though, so how did you discover that? How did you go from being engaged to the degree you were from an addiction, finding that resource? Was there someone that said, look, Kurtis, follow me. Let me take you over here and let's have a conversation. How did that happen, that transition?
So initially that just involved like going to treatment.
Okay.
I couldn't stay out there.
Require treatment or?
No.
Okay. So you found it somehow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I checked myself in the treatment. I had multiple treatment episodes actually. But that particular one in 1996 was what introduced me to a whole world where I discovered that I literally did not have to be out there.
Okay.
Right. So that wasn't my last episode.
Right.
But from then on out, there was no justification. There was a part of me that knew that, look, man, you ain't got to be out here doing this anymore.
Right.
And I thank God for that. Right. I put together close to 5 years of continuous recovery.
Oh, wow.
Had a great job. I was, helping to open new Oxford houses. I was, doing a lot of great things.
Right.
And, unfortunately, I suffered a return to use, right? And I on December 23rd, 2002, that was 2 days before Christmas, I found myself on the street, hungry, homeless, cold. I had lost my house. I had lost my job. I had lost my family. Wow. I had, in essence, lost my mind. And I really didn't know where to turn or where to go or what was going to become of me from that point on.
Wow.
And I called on the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And in that moment, he literally delivered me from substance use disorder.
Oh, wow.
Since that moment, I have not had a craving, a thought, an idea, a dream. There's no cell in my body that has any inclination whatsoever for any substance on the planet Earth. That includes cigarettes, even. I think we all know how addictive cigarettes are. Right. Cold turkey, brother.
Wow.
In the blink of an eye. Throughout that process, as I surrendered to Jesus, I also had to surrender to the authorities of the state of North Carolina.
Right.
I had some pending charges hanging over my head.
Right.
And so, but let me just say that jail didn't save me, prison didn't save me. That those places were just simply where I had to go at the time. Right. It could have been anywhere. The work was done, right? And so since then, I came home from prison in 2004 with absolutely nothing, not a change of clothes, not a dime in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
And God has been truly, truly good to me.
Okay.
I'm now a homeowner. I'm a business owner. I graduated from Shaw University with my bachelor's degree.
Fantastic.
And I graduated summa cum laude.
Okay.
For those that might not know exactly what that means I never made anything less than an A throughout my entire academic career. And I say that not to brag. I have absolutely nothing to brag about, but I say that because that was my opportunity to instead glorify God with that gift that once upon a time I considered a curse.
Yeah. Shaw University is a great place.
Oh, yeah. Go Bears.
I know. You got in, right?
Yeah.
And you made the most of that experience by graduating with all A's and nothing less.
Yes, sir.
It's amazing. How did you get on the track to become an executive director?
So I became the very first reentry coordinator for the organization called Oxford House Incorporated.
Okay.
They're self-run, self-supported recovery homes for people in recovery from substance use disorder. And so it became my job to go right back up into the same prisons that I had been incarcerated in, and interview my brothers and sisters and help them find placement in Oxford House. Okay. From there, I kind of took a career path towards advocacy. Sure. So I became the face, if you will, of a returning citizen. That phrase didn't exist back then, right. but you get the idea, and began to get involved with all types of advocacy groups. Okay. And during that process, I went ahead and went on back to school. Okay. While I was still in school, I was able to accept the role of executive director of the Alcohol Drug Council of North Carolina.
Wow.
That job minimum requirement was a bachelor's. They preferred a master's. I didn't have either, but God gave me that job anyway.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so I served in that capacity for roughly, 6, maybe close to 7 years. And then somebody called me and told me about a job opening over at the Bob Barker Foundation.
Okay.
And what they tell me is that the Board of Trustees, they did a nationwide search for their new executive director.
Right. And
they chose me.
Wow. So you've been in an executive director's role for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
You started that role without a bachelor's or a master's, even though they preferred a master's.
Mm-hmm.
You received your master's while in that role. I'm sorry, bachelor's while you were in that role.
Yeah.
And then Bob Barker called you.
Yes.
And then you came over to them as their executive director, or were you in another position before?
No, as executive.
That is incredible. Absolutely amazing.
That's God.
No.
So I've been in this role now about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is incredible to hear. So for your next journey, so you've been there 2 years. What's next in building the organization and creating the outcomes that they want to create from the board of directors and their leadership team?
Yeah. So the Bob Barker Company is currently restructuring because their heart is such that they want to increase the number of justice impacted employees. They want to have a healthy ratio so that nobody, regardless of your background, feels out of place.
Okay.
They want everybody to feel like this, have a sense of belonging at the company.
Right.
And so I'm doing everything I can to help push that effort along. But from the foundation standpoint, we are currently really, really focused on second chance hiring.
Okay.
We understand that, if somebody comes home, I think you said earlier, they can't get a job,
right?
They're going back,
right?
Right? That's not rocket science. And so we want to make sure that our society begins to think differently about the incarcerated individuals, to think differently about what a returning citizen looks like.
Right.
Because, most of the time, when I walked in this room today, nobody really looked at me and, grabbed their purse and, it felt like, they probably thought I was an attorney or maybe a probation officer. I get that sometimes, right? But the reality is that I am what a returning citizen looks like. I am what redemption looks like.
Right.
I am what a changed life looks like.
Right.
And so if, God saw fit, if society saw fit to give Kurtis Taylor another chance, then we doggone well better be giving the next man and the next woman another chance.
So when we look across the country from a workforce development, there's such a need in so many industries to find talent.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is helping to create that pipeline of talent.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're helping to find the people regardless of their background. So they might have some imperfections, but there's a workforce there. They're willing to work. Right. They have to prove themselves. So they're willing to work even harder in some cases.
Right.
But you're doing it on the foundation side and supporting organizations that work with reentry, hiring programs. But within the for-profit business, they made a dedication to hiring people with imperfect backgrounds as well, is what you're saying.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so the focus has kind of shifted somewhat to where I am targeting those for-profit businesses.
Targeting
their conferences, the State Chambers of Commerce,
Okay.
the National Association of State Chambers of Commerce, you name it, any and everywhere where I can get an opportunity to push this message across. That's what I'm doing.
So I've worked with a lot of chambers throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
If you were speaking to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, you were with the CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and some of the biggest chambers. The Dallas has a big Chamber of Commerce, the Dallas Regional Chamber of Commerce. It's either one or two largest in the country. The Atlanta Chamber of Commerce is also one or two largest in the country. If you had, let's say, those three and maybe a couple of other CEOs of Chambers of Commerce, what is your pitch to them?
My pitch to them is that we absolutely must give people another chance.
Right.
This employment shortage that we're experiencing in our country, it's impacting all of us. Yes. And lo and behold, I have the solution.
I was going to say, you have a fix.
I got a fix. I got over 80 million some odd people just ready and willing to do the work. And, the setup is such that when folks go through the things that I've gone through, when we get to the other side and somebody gives us that first or those opportunities, right, we are incredibly grateful. Right. And it shows up in our work performance. Right. It shows up in our work ethic and everything else that you can imagine. Right. I've had to learn so many skills that I didn't have prior to being given a certain role, right, for many companies. Right. And but I did it. If that meant late nights, whatever that took, I've been willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish the goals in front of me. And so that's what you're getting when you're giving a justice impacted individual another chance. That's what you're getting.
Right. And I've heard someone say this, and I'm not sure that maybe a lot of my business colleagues get it, but I've heard someone say it a few times, and I think it's true. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. For those people making that transition, for them, they have nothing to lose, right? Mm-hmm. They want to go out and prove themselves because there's nothing else waiting on the other side. Right. So as you mentioned, when they get that second opportunity, they're enormously grateful. And they want to show you that they're not the person that you think they are.
That's right.
Given their background, right? And so they're dedicated. I think they're going to prove a lot of people wrong in a good way. Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, what else can you offer the rest of the country? You mentioned what you would say to the Chambers of Commerce. You mentioned how people can reach you. Tell us again how they can reach you and how you can help them make that transition with giving them access to a new workforce potentially that they hadn't thought of.
Yeah. So again, our website is www.bobbarkerfoundation.org. And again, our whole entire grant application process is 100% web-based. So you don't have to contact me. You don't have to email me or anything like that. Everything you need to do is laid out right there on our web portal.
Right.
You can't apply currently.
Right.
So every year, the application portal will open on January 1st of each year. Okay. And it will stay open until we have enough legitimate applications in the queue to take us through that following 12
Gotcha.
months.
That's interesting. So there's not an end date. It's January 1 is kind of a rolling date depending on how many people you get to respond.
That's correct.
Okay. And then I presume you set aside a number of funds that you think will be achieved in giving away in that period of time.
Yeah, the budget for each year is based on the total asset, a percentage of the total assets of the foundation in the prior year on December 31st.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then if a Chamber of Commerce or let's say one of the big companies, the Fortune 500 companies based anywhere they're based, let's say they're in Texas or California, they want to understand how they can build a program to access this workforce.
Yes.
They can contact you. I presume you're willing to talk to them, maybe fly out and have them build a strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do that all the time. And not just me, but I'm also connected to a wealth of people and organizations who have that expertise, who can come in and help you build whatever it is you're attempting to build so we can give our brothers and sisters a fighting chance.
Very cool. So America, Kurtis Taylor is available if they need guidance on what this could look like, because I think people probably need somewhat of an education, just some guidance, some understanding on how they can build a program that accesses this potential workforce. And that's a great opportunity for nonprofits if they're looking for funding, for for-profits if they're looking for strategic guidance on workforce development. Kurtis is your guy, right? I appreciate you joining us on the program and sharing not only your personal story, but your business story. Oh, you also mentioned that you're in business. separately. Okay, what are you doing before we close out?
I am an unlimited licensed general contractor in North Carolina and surrounding states, and I have a design center and showroom on Capitol Boulevard in Raleigh. RDC Renovations Incorporated is my business. 3501 Suite 105 Capitol Boulevard. Come by and see us.
What kind of renovations are
all
you
kinds.
focused on? Residential, commercial?
Everything, all of the above. I sell cabinets and countertops and floors, and we've got painters and plumbers, electricians and roofers, and everything that you can possibly imagine.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations on your success. I will say this as we close. What I found is the experience that you had at 12, 13, 14, 15, in that period of time of going through that journey probably helped you to become the person that you are today and prepare you for this opportunity. So for as tough as it was then, you might not be the person that you are today. And there's so many people out there waiting for that same kind of journey to take place so that they can reach their opportunity and their success.
Yeah.
So you've done an incredible job, and now you're passing that on to other people. You're paying it forward. And I appreciate all that you're doing in workforce development across the entire United States.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining us on I Build America podcast, where we're helping to create information, share information, and opportunities for people looking to build and hire people that are willing to work across the country, and share information for organizations that are willing to create solutions across the country. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the I Build America podcast. Please subscribe, share, and comment, and be sure to join us next time for more insights and inspiring conversations on building a powerful American workforce. I Build America, building workforce success one podcast at a time.